Nobody saw it coming. For 20 years, Marcus Webb had been invisible at Elmwood Academy, the city's most elite private school. 58 years old, weathered hands, dirt-stained overalls. Every morning at 6 a.m. he arrived before the students. Every evening at 7 p.m. he left after everyone was gone. The teachers, they walked past him like he was furniture. The parents, they never made eye contact. The students, some didn't even know his name. To them, Marcus Webb was just the gardener, the old man who trimmed the hedges, who mowed the perfect lawn, who planted flowers nobody really noticed, invisible, forgettable, just there. But if anyone had looked closer, they would have seen something strange. The way Marcus's eyes followed every equation scribbled on classroom windows during calculus lessons, how he lingered near outdoor study sessions, listening to students struggle with differential equations. And sometimes, when he thought nobody was watching, when he knelt alone in the rose garden, he whispered, numbers, formulas, mathematical sequences that made absolutely no sense for a gardener. His garden designs told their own story. The flower beds weren't random. They followed Fibonacci sequences. The hedge patterns incorporated golden ratios. The stone pathways formed geometric perfections that would make any mathematician pause, but nobody noticed, because nobody looked, not at the gardener. Elmwood Academy's pride and joy was their Mathematics Olympiad team. For 5 consecutive years, they'd crushed regional competitions, state championships, even placed third nationally. Their weapon? Dr. Patricia Chen, a mathematical legend with 3 decades of coaching experience and a PhD from Cambridge. Under her guidance, 17 students had sacrificed their weekends, their social lives, their sleep, all for one goal, the national championship, 3 days away. And then disaster struck. Tuesday afternoon, during an intensive practice session, Dr. Chen collapsed. Right there in the classroom, the students screamed. Paramedics rushed in. Diagnosis at the hospital? Severe pneumonia. Complications? She'd be hospitalized for at least 3 weeks, maybe longer. The students were devastated. Years of preparation, 48 hours until they had to leave for nationals. Everything hung in the balance. Principal Anderson called an emergency meeting with the math department. 6 teachers crowded into her office. We need a replacement coach, immediately. Call another qualified math teacher? Dr. Rodriguez was at an international conference in Singapore. Professor Kim was on sabbatical in Korea. Mrs. Thompson taught basic algebra, not topology and advanced calculus. What about hiring an outside expert? The school's competition budget was already spent. Travel, hotels, registration fees. There was nothing left. Can we delay our participation? Competition rules were absolute. No delays, no exceptions. Teams either showed up ready or they forfeited. So we just cancel? Principal Anderson looked at the 17 faces in the photograph on her desk. Students who'd given up everything for this moment. How could she tell them it was over? How could she break their hearts? That night, she stayed late in her office. Dr. Chen had left behind her practice materials. Advanced problems, the kind that stumped PhD candidates. Principal Anderson stared at them, feeling helpless. She didn't even understand the questions, let alone the answers. She had a master's in education administration, not advanced mathematics. A soft knock interrupted her despair. Marcus Webb stood in the doorway, dirt under his fingernails, pruning shears in his back pocket, his weathered face uncertain. Ma'am, I overheard the situation with the Math Olympiad. May I see the problems? Principal Anderson almost laughed. It wasn't cruel, just absurd. The gardener wanted to help with mathematics that challenged university professors, but something made her pause. Maybe desperation, maybe the strange intensity in Marcus's eyes. She handed him the papers. These are Dr. Chen's practice problems. They're extremely advanced. MIT-level differential equations and topology. Marcus's hands trembled slightly as he took the papers. His eyes scanned the first problem. Complex, layered, beautiful in its difficulty. His lips moved silently, and for a moment, Principal Anderson saw something flicker across his face. Not confusion, something else, something that looked almost like recognition, like pain. He walked to the whiteboard without asking permission, picked up a marker. His hand shook as he raised it to the board, not from uncertainty about the mathematics, from memory, from 15 years of trauma he buried so deep he almost forgot it existed. Numbers began flowing from his marker. Elegant, precise, beautiful. The solution emerged like a story being told. 90 seconds, that's all it took. A problem Dr. Chen's team had wrestled with for 3 hours. Solved, perfect, complete. Principal Anderson's jaw dropped. How did you just... Marcus set down the marker carefully. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, almost broken. It's Dr. Webb, ma'am. Or it used to be Dr. Marcus Webb, MIT Mathematics Department, Associate Professor of Advanced Topology. That was 15 years ago, before everything fell apart. The story came out in fragments. Painful, raw. A colleague at MIT had accused Marcus of stealing research, plagiarism, academic theft. The accusation was false, completely fabricated. But in the academic world, accusations stick like tar. The investigation dragged on for months. Committees, hearings, lawyers. Even though they found no evidence, even though Marcus was technically cleared, the damage was done. His reputation was destroyed. Whispers followed him through every mathematics department in the country. That's the professor who stole research. Journals rejected his papers without review. Conferences rejected his presentations. His wife, unable to handle the stress and humiliation, left him. Colleagues he'd known for decades stopped returning his calls. He applied to universities across the nation. 53 applications, 53 rejections. Some didn't even send formal responses. They just ignored him, like he'd ceased to exist. Eventually, the money ran out. His savings, his hope, his identity. He needed work, any work. Elmwood Academy was hiring a groundskeeper. No questions about his past. No background checks beyond criminal records. Just, can you maintain gardens? He took the job and disappeared. But he never stopped loving mathematics. He couldn't. It was like asking him to stop breathing. So he hid it in his gardens, sketched equations in the soil, designed plantings using mathematical principles. The beauty of numbers lived in every flower he touched. Mathematics wasn't just his career, it was his soul. And they'd taken everything else, but they couldn't take that. Principal Anderson sat in stunned silence. Finally, she spoke. "Dr. Webb, those students out there, they need help. They've worked so hard. Could you coach them? Just for the competition, please." Marcus looked at the problem still on the board, then at the photograph of the team on her desk. 17 young faces, full of hope. The same hope he'd carried once, before it was crushed. Before he learned that hard work and brilliance weren't always enough. His voice cracked. "The last time I stood in front of students, they called me a fraud, a thief. What if I fail them? What if I'm not? What if I can't?" Principal Anderson leaned forward. "What if you don't fail? What if you give these kids the gift you never got? A second chance?" For the next 48 hours, Marcus Webb stopped being invisible. He gathered the students in the greenhouse, his sanctuary among the roses and equations. They sat on benches surrounded by flowers he'd planted with geometric perfection. And he taught, not from textbooks, not from memorization. He taught them the mathematics hidden in nature itself, patterns in flower petals, spirals in shells, the golden ratio in tree branches. He showed them tricks no textbook covered, insights from 30 years of research, ways to see problems not as obstacles but as puzzles begging to be understood, the beauty underlying every equation. The students were shocked. This quiet man who'd mowed their fields and trimmed their hedges, he was a genius. He made topology feel like poetry, made differential equations dance, made impossibly complex problems feel conquerable. One student, a girl named Emma, whispered, "Dr. Webb, why aren't you teaching at MIT?" Marcus smiled, sad but genuine. "Sometimes life has other plans for us, but maybe those plans lead us exactly where we need to be." Competition day arrived. The students walked into that national auditorium, carrying more than formulas. They carried confidence, understanding, the knowledge that mathematics wasn't about memorization or speed. It was about seeing patterns in chaos, finding beauty in complexity, thinking like Dr. Webb taught them to think. 8 hours of brutal competition, problems that made grown mathematicians weep, but Elmwood students didn't panic. They approached each problem the way Marcus had taught them, with patience, with curiosity, with joy. When the results came, the auditorium fell silent. Third place, Lincoln Academy. Second place, Westbrook Preparatory. First place, Elmwood Academy. The students exploded, screaming, crying, hugging each other. National champions. They'd done it. Against impossible odds, they'd won. And then as one, they ran. Not to celebrate, to find Marcus. He was outside the venue, sitting on a bench near a flower bed, studying the plants, trying to disappear again, trying to become invisible, but they wouldn't let him. They lifted him onto their shoulders, chanting, "Dr. Webb, Dr. Webb, Dr. Webb." For the first time in 15 years, Marcus Webb felt something he'd forgotten existed. He felt seen, valued, vindicated, redeemed. The videos went viral within hours, not just locally. Mathematics communities worldwide, MIT professors were emailing Principal Anderson, "Is this the Marcus Webb, the one who disappeared, the one we lost?" And then someone discovered the truth. The colleague who'd accused Marcus, he'd confessed on his deathbed 5 years ago, admitted the accusation was fabricated. Born of jealousy and spite, he'd published the confession in an obscure journal nobody read, but nobody had thought to tell Marcus. Nobody had looked for him. He just vanished, and they'd let him. The school board called an emergency meeting. They offered Marcus everything: department head position, full salary, office with a view. public recognition, official title restoration. But Marcus surprised them. He declined the fancy office, declined the title. He had one condition, just one request, a weekly class. He wanted to teach garden mathematics, where students learned that equations live in flower petals, where calculus grows in tree branches, where geometry hides in honeycomb patterns, where nature and numbers dance together in perfect harmony. The school agreed immediately. Today, garden mathematics is Elmwood's most popular class. Students sit in the greenhouse, surrounded by roses Marcus planted with mathematical perfection. They learn that mathematics isn't cold numbers on a sterile board. It's the language of the universe itself, the hidden poetry in everything that grows. Last year's National Olympiad winner, a girl named Sarah Chen, Dr. Patricia Chen's granddaughter. She learned calculus between the roses, topology among the tulips. And when she accepted her gold medal, she thanked two people, her grandmother and the gardener who taught her that genius doesn't need an office or a title, that brilliance can bloom anywhere, even in silence. Even after being buried for 15 years, Marcus Webb never got his MIT office back, never wanted it, because he discovered something better than prestige. He found students who saw him, not as furniture, not as the gardener, but as Dr. Webb, the mathematician who proved that knowledge, like seeds, never truly dies. It just waits, patient, silent, for the right season to bloom again. And every morning, before the students arrive, Marcus walks through his garden, checking equations hidden in petal arrangements, whispering formulas to the roses, still invisible to most of the world, but visible to the ones who matter, the ones who learned that the most brilliant minds don't always wear suits and stand behind prestigious podiums. Sometimes they wear dirty overalls, sometimes they push wheelbarrows, sometimes they plant miracles in soil, and sometimes if you look close enough, you'll see them, really see them, not as they appear, but as they truly are.